brain today. But first, just a little reminder. I did introduce myself and Tina a little bit to you guys on the first evening, but that was so long ago, I can hardly remember. So just a little bit about us. We've both worked in corporations as employees for a long time. We're both educators, have worked in personal, business, professional development, leadership development for years. I was an academic for a while. We're both coaches, and we both share a passion for neuroscience, because neuroscience explains so much that certainly I didn't learn even at university. Even when I did a master's degree later in my life, neuroscience really wasn't a thing yet. So we both love how the science explains how we function and how we can use that knowledge to just be more effective, more efficient, and above all, happier and more healthy. Okay, so we both work with individuals, we work with groups, and in the last year, we've all learned to do absolutely everything online, which sometimes can be fun and sometimes stressful. I'm thrilled to be here. This is not my home or my space. This belongs to a very dear friend of mine who lives in a village just close to me. We've had such bad storms that I haven't actually got Wi-Fi at the moment. So I'm borrowing somebody's beautiful space, for which I am deeply grateful. So you guys haven't met Tina yet. We work together. We met on a neuroscience training course. She lives in Germany. I think she's one of the smartest people I know. And I think she's funny. So we love working together, and hopefully today we'll share that with you guys. So Tina, is there something you want to say?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. And if by the end of this session, the spark has flown over to you that neuroscience is literally present in every breath we take and every thought we have, and that it's not something abstract for academics somewhere out there, it's actually very useful to know about it, then I think we're both very happy.
That's true. That's true. We run a program called User's Guide to Your Brain. So these are actually sections of a User's Guide to Your Brain. Okay, so if we go to the first slide. So the first thing about the brain, there's really good news about the brain. Okay, and the very good news about the brain is I can't see anybody. Okay, there we go. I couldn't see anybody for a moment. I'm like, I'm alone in the world. Okay. All right. So, okay. So the first thing about the brain is that it doesn't ever stop developing. It doesn't ever stop learning. When I was in university, my first degree, a long time ago, we thought people, grew up and then their brain stopped developing. The good news is your brain absolutely never stops developing, changing until the very last day of your life. So your brain is entirely plastic, and that's what we're going to be focusing on today. The not so great news is your brain isn't finished. So if any of you have teenage children or children in their early 20s, it doesn't actually physiologically finish developing until you're in your late 20s, very late 20s, like 28, 29. So the brain keeps on changing until we are quite mature. So if you've got a 17 or a 21-year-old at home, don't tell them to behave like an adult. They can't do that all the time because they aren't quite finished yet. So that's all I have to say about the brain. And we will talk about how we can retrain it. It's, if you decide to get fit at 50 or at 60, you can do it. If you decided to, take a different approach to your brain at any age, you can do it. We've all heard of people who've done degrees in their 80s and 90s, or started running marathons or do triathlons when they're much, much older. So the brain is plastic. Okay. Alrighty, so I just want to talk a little bit about the authentic joy of leadership. Being a leader can be a little bit scary. I think for a lot of us women, it might feel a little bit like, well, it certainly was for me when I was a young manager, director, chief executive. It was a scary role. I'm responsible, I'm the boss, people are looking up to me. It took me a long time to figure out that really, if you're authentic and you lead from within and you come at it with your heart, and you come at it with integrity, then leadership is an enormous amount of fun, because what you can do as a leader is just share your passion and your love for your work and what it is you're doing with others. And if you see yourself as a leader and you take on that leadership role and you bring it from within you, it's actually easy and fun and quite natural. So think about the fact that authentic leadership is a joy. It doesn't have to be scary. And, you know, I've done it for many, many years. And the older I get, the more experienced I am, the more of a joy it is to be a leader. So look forward to enjoying being a leader if you haven't already found the joy in it. Okay. Okay, this one for me is an interesting slide. You know, what is it like to be, what does it feel like to be in charge? What does it feel like to be the one who shakes the hand of the other person, particularly if that person is also a woman, and the man is standing there, as we say in Ireland, with one arm as long as the other? You know, what does it actually feel like to be in charge and be the leader? You know, so again, think of yourself as a leader. Think of yourself as taking the lead. Think of yourself as sharing what is, you know, a passion for you, what is important to you with others, and bring others with you. So we will explore a little bit more, you know, throughout, you know, the next few hours. You know that you're enough. You know that you're living your life with open-heartedness. Know that if you do what you do with integrity and authenticity, that is enough. That is plenty. That will do. So know that you can be the one that shakes the hands and makes the deals while the men stand there with one arm as long as the other. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, let's have a look at the agenda. We will start with a little exercise to get acquainted with our brains. And then we want to talk about neuroplasticity, what that actually means. Hildy already hinted at some important points around that. After that, we will have like a little comfort break so that everybody is ready to refocus on the second part of the workshop. There we will have a look whether there's different or in what sense there are different viewpoints on your life. And about the superpower of changing perspectives, we will do an exercise about that. And in the end, it's actually about, so what do you do with all what you've heard today? What does that mean? How do you make that real in your lives? And we will do one breakout room in pairs where you talk to each other. I don't know whether you've done that already. That's when you're in a room on camera with pairs to talk to each other. We will do 2 exercises where you actually will need your telephone, because you will vote or enter your answer. I think you've done that already in one session. It's nothing complicated. And we will do several, what I'd call like reflective exercises that we will do all together in silence, guided together. So then we will share and exchange how the experience was for you. And you benefit most from this morning if you come or put yourself into a mindset with openness, with curiosity. Be relaxed, try to stay focused and be yourself. Listen to yourself, listen to others. And we really want to invite you, if you have questions, unmute yourself or give a hand sign. If we in the matter of things we overlook that, unmute yourself and ask your questions. This morning is about being reflective and active, and we need both to learn and to learn best. And I think that will be explained throughout the morning. So if that's okay with you, I'd say we start with.
You know, I just want to say there's a break. We take a 15-minute break after a few exercises, and I can tell you exactly when we take that 15-minute break. If you give me a minute, about 18, 17, 16. I'm trying to count it. I've got my timings in my time, not in your time. So 1900 is 1900 is what? 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13,
It's even in my
11.
time. So I'd say it's about in the
In an
middle or a
hour.
bit earlier than the middle.
Yeah.
So
So we'll give you a 15-minute break to, comfort break, just, maybe get a glass of water or something.
okay. Yeah, then I'd say we already start to be active. Imagine you're the editor of your own newspaper and you have the top headline to create, and the top article is a review about your life and leadership within the last few months. And we'd want you to think about what is the headline, what will be breaking news in your article. And to collect them, we will do that in a Menti. So just take a moment to think about what is the headline of your own newspaper? What's your life and leadership these last few months? And when you're ready, you can either scan the QR code. So that means you use your camera and it will open a website where you can put in your answer, your headline, or you can go to menti.com and use the code that is displayed here. And then we will have a look together what exciting lives have come together in the last few months.
Okay. Is everybody happy with using Menti? You've used it before, I know, in the first session.
It's just you open the camera and have it on photo. You scan the code. It will want to open a website and you click on that. And then you're already there and you can just enter your headline, press submit, and that's all there is to do. Okay, so we'll have a look on Menti, what's happening with it. There is already something happening. Let's see. Too much to do, not enough time. Feels like one, I know, empowering others. Persistence of excellence. Embracing the leader I am from the inside out. Inbound high jump, master, great. Career soul searching, hardworking, changes on the horizon. But wait, there's more. I have to check. Normally it should run the whole thing. Ah, now it starts scrolling itself. Okay. But wait, there's more. That's nice. Dealing with daily crossroads, making balanced choices, opening up my heart, always moving forward. Another effing growth opportunity. Completes major shipment to Hawaiian Island, meeting deadline to finish project on schedule. Eileen has been invited to be part of the management action team. I think it's scrolling a bit like it wants to.
Like the daily crossroads.
Mm-hmm. Take a mentorship role. Overwhelmed, yes.
Another annoying growth opportunity I see.
Tides of change drives all forward. Building a great team. Received ID makes sense. Shaking off the doubt and running her home and office like a boss. Breaking boundaries. Rockstar mom finishes degree at 55. Yeah, the scrolling just feels like it's a bit independent from me, so I can't really make it move differently. But I will take of course, the results later on and include that in the slides so that you can later on have a look at that. Is anyone there who wants to speak to their headline, or is there something? I mean, to me, it feels like hard work, but there's also encouraging things. It's actually a diverse field.
Okay, so this is a little image that puts us in mind of what happens with neuroplasticity. I don't know how many of you live in places that are cold or have visited places that are cold. We don't get very much snow in Ireland, but I think most of us have been exposed to snow. And particularly if the snow is deep, it's really quite difficult to walk in deep snow where you haven't walked before. Many years ago, we had a lot of snow. We had about a yard, 3 feet of snow up here. And I had a horse at the time. And the first time I had to walk from my house to the stables, it was tremendously difficult because I had to shovel it and it was up to my waist and it was hugely difficult. About the 50th time I walked, it was quite easy to walk in the snow. That's exactly how our brain works, okay? That's neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity means that the things that we do routinely, like we learn as little children that fire is hot and dangerous. We learn who are the people that are safe for us. We learn that what are the things we can eat, things we can't eat. So we learn from a very, very early age, you know, patterns in our brains and pathways in our brains, not patterns so much as pathways. And what can happen to us is we can default to particular pathways. So you can think about some of our neural pathways, like learning to drive. You know, learning to drive, the first time you try and learn to drive, it's like, how will I ever learn to do all of that stuff with my hands and my feet and look in my rearview mirror and do all of the stuff at the same time? And, you know, we all learn eventually to drive, and then it becomes so easy that we don't even think about it. We can do it and naughtily talk on our phones and, you know, chat to our friends and do other things. So that's an example of a well-used neural pathway is driving, okay? Even walking, you know, little children can't walk and they learn how to do that. So we learn through our lifetimes to make neural pathways. The thing that we're going to ask you to do as part of this program with retraining the brain is take a little look at, are the neural pathways, the ones where that we've used so often that they really highways at this point, are they taking us to where we want to be? Or are they just default neural pathways? Okay. So do I always drive to work exactly the same way? Do I sometimes take a different route because it's pretty? Do I always buy the same things in the supermarket, or do I sometimes, you know, just approach it slightly differently? Do I try something new? Do I learn something new? Do I walk into a field, you know, where there isn't a path and discover wildflowers, or do I just go on the highway and do what I've always done, whether it serves me or not, on automatic? So really, neuroplasticity is what your brain can do if you decide to support the neuroplasticity of your own brain. And what we can learn is absolutely limitless. You can finish your degree when you're 55. You can start a PhD in your 80s. You can write a book in your 70s. So it's just an invitation to look at what are neural pathways that serve us and what are neural pathways that we just do out of automatic mode. Most of us have default neural pathways. We don't even think about it, we just do it. And some of those default neural pathways really do serve us, like knowing how to drive very, very easily without even looking how we do it, or whatever things that you do really, really easily. And, you know, we don't try something different. We just stick to what we know. we get into the routine of doing things, and we don't try to make new neural pathways. And and I mean, in terms of whether your brain can change absolutely. And there's a researcher who says that Linda, I can't remember Linda's surname, Tina, but you've got a little run in of her, haven't you? To say Linda Page, yeah, she says that neuroplasticity is a 6-syllable word for hope. So whatever you want to learn, whatever you want to change your mind about, whatever new beginning you want to make, you can absolutely do that, because your brain is plastic. And at first it's going to be difficult, like walking in fresh snow. But when you do it a few times, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. We've all tried to learn new habits, you know, whether it's stopping smoking or dieting or doing more exercise, whatever it is. And then we have different levels of success, but we all know that if you persist, it becomes easy. So that
you can imagine that you can imagine that, for example, there's a saying, if it fires together, it wires together. That means the more often you do something, your neurons start to make more connection. Imagine, for example, you have one Wi-Fi signal that's a bit weak in your house. And if you move to another part, there is not much coming. But at some point, if you put in a repeater, for example, the signal becomes stronger and stronger. And at some point, you can actually use it everywhere. And it's a bit like that. It's the firing, the doing things more often that creates new patterns in our brains. And that's how the brain actually keeps us doing things, learning things. And it's also how we've been learning, like from child on. Especially the first few years are important, and we have neural pathways that we've developed because to keep us safe. But sometimes when we're adults, at some point we realize there are things they served us when we were little to keep us out of danger, to keep us safe. But as we're adults, they are hindering us. And it's the encouraging and also optimistic way. That's why therapy works. That's why coaching works. We can still change things, and by making new patterns, by having the courage to do the first new path in the snow. And we use that as a metaphor. The path in the snow, or actually also the way how the brain does that. What we'd like to do is do a little exercise, how we can visualize that. And we told you to bring something red and green. I tried to do that too. I was a bit scared that with the red beans and the pumpkin thing, that I would make a mess here in my office. So I decided for paper. What I'd like to do is a little experiment with Hildy, and we will have together a look into her brain. Hildy, I have my two glasses here. I will switch a little bit my camera down.
Yeah, so we can see we want to see your glasses, yes, please.
Okay, so Hildy, I'd like to know, is there something in your life, some issue that you'd like to share with us, that we could have a look what's happening for you? And what I will do, if I hear something that is supporting what you want to do, I put something green. And if I hear something that is like supporting your old path, your old motorway that you don't want anymore, I put something red. So that's what I try to do. And what would you like to talk about?
I want to talk about making videos. Instead of doing this, the transition from live teaching, whatever it is, to making videos. Okay. So in the last year, we've all learned how to do way more things online. And initially I was quite spooked by that. But after some time and investing in some new equipment and learning some new skills, I got to be quite comfortable with doing things online. However, then people were saying like, record it. And I'm like, no, it has to be perfect if it's going to be recorded. I have to have the technical skill. When people do this, they know everything about lighting and how to look beautiful. I should lose weight before I record myself on videos that are going to be there forever. I should buy new clothes in order to do this. I should cut my hair. I don't have the technical skills. And then, you know, I don't know enough about making videos. And then, yeah, well, you know, you teach online anyway. So what does it matter if it's recorded? You know, it's okay. Just do it. Just get on with it. So I got some help and I started looking into stuff. And then I started looking back at some of the stuff that I'd recorded. And I was just like, no, this is too difficult to look at myself recording. So so that's been an ongoing struggle for me in terms of you know, making videos that I feel are going to be out there forever, and that it's not like a moment that you engage with people, but that it's something that's just going to live and live and live and live, and every tiny little mistake you might have made will show up. But in my heart, I know if I'm just, you know, me and just get on with it, it'll be fine.
Okay,
that's my story.
Let's see. It's a bit mixed. Let's say there's one more green, like it feels like you're a bit on the upside. But that's a bit showing if you go your old path again and again, like I'm not good with technology. No, I'm really not good with technology. You pave the motorway, you can speed very fast, but in the wrong direction. And if you keep saying we all learned new skills, actually, maybe it doesn't have to be perfect. I do bit by bit, then you walk the new path. And the more you walk it, the stronger it gets. And what the brain actually does, there are some chemicals that do like, it's a bit like insulation around electrical wires that speeds up even more to help you with that new path. So thanks for having that little look in your brain. What we'd like you to do is to do the same thing now in pairs. Have a conversation with each other. Think of one issue that you might want to, that you're struggling with for a while, or something you want to change in your life. And just tell a story, and the other person listen carefully to what the other person says, and you're the service of doing the red and green for it, because it's a bit difficult to do that all on your own. And sometimes we think we say something negative or something positive, but actually it's something where we're beating ourselves up. That's a red one. That's why we sometimes need somebody else to listen into that. Yeah. You have each 5 minutes, switch in the middle, and we will send you a message, and then you will be back here. Hilde, you want to say something?
Yes, I just want to say, you're basically listening for the person being negative about some issue and the person being positive about some issue. Already I know you did walking the ladder with Margie and being above and below the line. So that's what you're listening for. Okay, so one person is talking, the other person is listening and filling their glass with objects. And then after 5 minutes, you switch, and we'll come back here and chat a little bit more. Is there any questions? You guys okay? Yeah.
And if you have other colors, just say which one, green or whatever color you choose, is in service of learning, and red or whatever color you choose is unfortunately in service of the path that you want to quit. So we put you in breakout rooms now, and you'll be back here in 10 minutes. In 5 minutes, please switch so that everyone has their share. Does somebody want to share? How was that for you? Any surprises?
Yeah, and it's also just, you know, what's the habit and what's the truth? It's sometimes difficult to tell the difference between what is the truth and what's just an old neural pathway, well-worn, nice highway, but it's not the truth, you know. It's not the truth that I can't make videos. I can.
Great, thank you.
Right. I always say that, or for me personally, when I look at Paralympians, Paralympic athletes that have some kind of disability, I go like, what am I saying? No, where does our negativity come from? These people look at their disability and say, yeah, I can be a swimmer or a basketball player or a, cyclist at Olympic level. So, okay, are we going to move on to?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the most important part here, it is not about right or wrong. It is actually to be aware that beating ourselves up for something is the worst thing we can do. We hinder ourselves in progressing. And sometimes we have that attitude to make ourselves smaller, to ponder our mistakes all the time. And I always feel, normally I'm not too much in putting gender to something, but I often feel women are a bit more prone to doing that. For example, you do a great dinner, you put it on the table, and the first thing you say, I think I didn't put enough salt in that. You have to look, for example, instead of thinking, geez, I did a great dinner and now let's enjoy. It's just a simple example that we tend to, sometimes we think it's a kind of humility or the making us smaller, and to really be aware we're hindering ourselves in changing towards the better, and to really, that was one of your headlines before, step up. That's my invitation here. Hildy, we will have a look. There are some things that help us with neuroplasticity to do that well or to support ourselves. Let's hear what that is. You're still on mute, Hildy.
Okay, there I am. Okay, sorry about that.
Good.
Alrighty. So, yeah, happy bunch of people in a room doing something. One of my favorite things, yoga. There are certain things that support neuroplasticity. So, the more healthy you are, the easier it is for your brain to be plastic. Okay. So one of the keys to neuroplasticity is exercise. Okay. Exercise boosts your immune system. Exercise helps you transition from your parasympathetic nervous system to your sympathetic nervous system. You sleep better when you exercise. Your digestion is better when you exercise. Your body shape is better than you exercise. And certainly your mood is better when you exercise. Okay. But your brain actually needs exercise. So without exercise, your brain is going to be less plastic. And I have a dear friend who said to me some time ago that she wasn't really into exercise particularly until she learned that it's good for her brain. And then she said, yeah, okay, I'll exercise. If it's going to make me smarter, I'll exercise. So the first key to neuroplasticity is exercise, and just something to, we all know that, but do we understand that in the integral system that our body is, that exercise is actually something that boosts your brain? So without it, your brain will not be as plastic as you would like it to be, okay? Or as you think it could be. So let's look at the next thing. It's another one of my hobby horses in my wellness work that I do. Okay, when you feed your body, you also feed your brain, and you also feed your mood. Very important to stay hydrated. I was talking to a nutrition friend of mine actually today. Hydration, hydration, hydration. The body steals water from different parts of the body, like for instance your colon, to get enough water into your brain, because your brain doesn't like it when it isn't hydrated. Okay, you cannot think clearly when your brain isn't hydrated. And your brain needs needs omega oils, and it needs a lot of water to stay hydrated. So when you're drinking your water, it's not just for your general well-being, it is very, very specifically for your brain. And this is not a nutrition issue, but again, I was talking to a guy yesterday, as a physiotherapist, and he talked about dehydrated ligaments. Okay, so that jumps back to the exercise. So really, really, really think about your hydration. Think about your omega oil. Think about, how are you feeding yourself? Do you feed yourself? Do you get sugar spikes? Do you overeat and undernourish yourself? do you have processed foods instead of meals made, from scratch, from ingredients that are healthy and wholesome? There's a price to be paid for the environment if we're not mindful around the foods that we use. Personally, I love eating organic foods, and I grow them myself. I get a real buzz out of eating organic foods. So the main thing for your brain is that you need to fuel your brain that gives you sustained energy. If you're on a roller coaster in terms of what you're eating, now you have to get a coffee or a banana or a biscuit or a donut or, something, a piece of toast to keep you going. Okay, that's a roller coaster in terms of your sustained energy. So for your brain to function optimally, even for your brain to function well, you need to be absolutely mindful of what it is that you eat. And that's just on a physiological level. Then good moods, sustained energy, your gut and your brain are completely connected. Okay, if you don't feed your gut bugs or your gut flora with the right foods, you won't make the happy hormones, you won't make the serotonins, you won't make the dopamines, because your body has a very, very close link to your gut. So it's just an invitation to say to you, take a really good look at your diet, at eating nutritious food, at feeding yourself properly, at being mindful, not just so that you're the right weight you want to be and look pretty, but so that your brain has sustained energy, and so that you can think clearly, make decisions clearly, and learn easily. Okay. So
I may just add to that, there is some research from Sandrine Ture from King's College in London, and the white terms, the bigger they are, the more important they are. And the black words is what turned out that it's hindering neurogenesis. That means the creation of new pathways and connections in the brain. And also, as Hildy already said, memory and mood are completely connected to that. So for example, high saturated fats, high sugars, completely bad. Soft diet, it turns out, is not good for your brain either. So if you only live on smoothies and your teeth don't have anything to bite, your brain doesn't like that too much. Blueberries are very good. Resveratrol, for those of you who love red wine, alcohol is not good, but the red stuff in the grapes is not so bad. So you end up a bit neutral. So if you want to drink something, a glass of red wine is better than something else. Curcuma or turmeric, as you say, it's very good. Flavonoids, that is in what was it? I have it here in cacao. That's why dark chocolate is actually very good for the brain. If you have a creeping for chocolate, then let it be dark chocolate. Also in green tea. Is it green tea you're having in your nice bottle, Hildy?
Yep.
Perfect. So these are just a few things that you can have a look at. And omega-3, I think we all heard about that.
So it does work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've recently done I see intermittent fasting is on our list here. I recently done a coached, managed fast, and I also felt like that after a few days, absolutely flying. Okay, so look at what you're eating, guys, not only for the shape that you are and for your general health and for your heart and for your arteries and for your bones, but also for your brain. Okay.
When we talked to Sandrine at the Future Health Summit, as the slide is about diets, but she mentioned in sex is also very good for the brain. So if that's something you're enjoying, that is something healthy for the brain
that's
too.
Exercise, absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, all right, let's look at sleep.
Sleep.
Okay, guys. So in terms of sleep, for how many of us is sleep a priority? Prioritize your rest. Respect its impact on your life and on your effectiveness. The brain cannot function well when it is exhausted. How many times have you sat at a screen and typed something 5 times because you just can't get it right, or something simple that you just can't put together because you're absolutely exhausted. Stop it, you know, and prioritize your rest and your sleep. You know, conscious leaders can't get by without enough sleep. So make sure that you prioritize your rest. Yeah, between 7 and 9 hours for adults. We all know what our sleep patterns are, and we all know, you know, what are things. There's a lot of statistics about, you know, I think 68% of all Americans have some difficulty with sleeping at some point or another. So do look at your sleep. It is as important as your nutrition, maybe even a little bit more important. Just respect your sleep. That's all I'm going to say.
There's still some mystery about why we sleep or why sleep is so important. But so far, the assumption is that actually during our sleep, the brain is a bit like it's cleaning up. It's pruning the neurons. It's like cleaning up, looking for memory, for learning. That's why maybe you experience that in your studies or in your school too. If you learn something at night and then you sleep, it's very likely that you remember more of it in the morning. It's a very healthy cleanup that the sleep is doing. And if we sleep too little, it plays actually at everything: concentration, metabolism, weight gain, whatever it is. Sleep is so important. So we're not wasting our time. It's something we should have a look at. And there is research, like I just have the numbers here in front of me, that a company with 1,000 workers can lose about $1.4 million a year through undiagnosed and untreated sleep disorders, for example. There's a business impact in that, not only a personal one.
Yeah. And, you know, if somebody that's in your team, you know, seem to be ineffective, not quite on point, it might be an idea to, look at these key factors that are involved in neuroplasticity. So anyway, let's move on to focus. So this is another key to neuroplasticity: one pointed attention, focus. Okay. How at work, I'm sure you guys do focus on particular things, but solving a problem, really paying attention, really being in one place. In mindfulness, we talk about being present, being in the moment. How you can get into a lovely state of synchronicity when you're completely focusing on something and you're just flying through it. You're not even thinking. You're so focused that they're actually getting it done and getting it done really quickly. Well, we all need to practice focus in order to keep our brains plastic. Remember, this is all about retraining your brain. And one of the ways to retrain your brain and keep it plastic and keep it flexible is to focus. Okay. And, we think we can multitask. Particularly as women, we think we can multitask. We actually can't. We can switch very, very quickly between activities. But focus is to literally be with the task in a focused way. So think whether there is focus in your life to keep your brain absolutely tip-top condition and make it possible for you to learn and develop. Okay.
For example, people who've never done meditation or mindfulness, they may think that this is about drifting away. It's actually the contrary. It's the really 100% focus of the moment, of the breath. It's total focus. So this is something, a good thing to train that, for example.
And by the way, just to talk about meditation, the Dalai Lama says that the best meditation is sleep. So just think about that also. Okay, let's look at novelty. So this is my favorite thing in terms of what your brain needs. And your brain needs to do new things. Okay. The brain loves routines. The brain rewards us for routines. But in fact, for the brain to stay healthy and for the brain to be plastic and learn well, we need to do new things. We need to make those new neural pathways. We need to go and walk in that fresh snow and find a new pathway for the brain. you know, learning something new. You girls are all definitely practicing neuroplasticity at the moment with this program, because you're being challenged, you're getting new input about new things. So we need to do different things for neuroplasticity. We need to think differently for neuroplasticity. We need to feel different things for neuroplasticity. We need to we need to be in a place where things are novel and different. You know, a new beginning, perhaps, you know, new eating, new sleeping, new exercise, new focus, new novelty routines. Is there one thing that you can think of that you've always said you wanted to do, but you just haven't got around to doing it? You know, go for it. That's good for your brain. So actually the brain needs novelty. One of the things that happens with older people, you know, there's a lot of myths about what happens to older people's brains. The fact is, most older people don't do focus and they don't do novelty. So if you've got an elderly parent at home, check with them and see, are they doing some novel things and are they focusing on something, and keep their brain being healthy and active and interested for a little while longer. Okay. So we all know how all know how exciting new experiences are, you know, new friends, new partners, even new possessions. We love buying new things. You know, take another route than you usually do on your walk or to work. You know, we know how lovely it feels when we have that aha moment and you get an insight. The brain really loves novelty. That's the upside. The red side of that is, if you do not do novel things with your brain, the dendrites in your brain will actually atrophy. So there's little, you know, on your neurons, there's little sticky out things that look like fingers that are the dendrites. And if you don't do novel things, those things will sort of pull back and shrivel up like this little sea animal that you've touched. So it is really, really important to embrace novelty in your life. And if you don't use it, you lose it. It's as simple as that. It's exactly like with exercise. Same thing with your brain. Don't use it, you lose it. But you can always go get it again. Okay, now we can ask you guys to do a little exercise. You have hopefully a printout of this that Gillian, that
Yes,
Vivian would have sent you.
if you've printed out the wheel, it's actually to rate yourself for the 5 factors that we just mentioned, for exercise, nutrition, sleep, and focus. So if you're not doing that a lot, you make a point or a cross somewhere in the inner circle. If you think I'm actually great at that, the further out you go. And just connect the dots later on, and then you will see, if you imagine it is a wheel, will you have a really bumpy ride, like a flat tire, because one area is completely represented, or is it rather round? It's just to create awareness where you need to focus on in the next time, for example. And then we will collect that on Menti just to see what we have in the room. But just take 2 minutes to quickly rate yourself how you are in these 5 areas.
Sharon, did you have a question?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. This is Sharon, and I was just wondering about the novelty side of things, that we need to do new things. A lot of times it feels like everything is new, and how new can be an overload. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that a little bit.
Okay. I mean, so go, Tina.
No, I think it's with everything, you can, of course, overdo it. If you only have novelty and you don't have the time to reflect, to integrate that, we cannot learn at the speed that we want to. We need the other factors too, and reflection, integration is very important. So it's the same as if you totally obsess about eating healthy, I'm pretty sure you'll be stressed, and the stress impact will be stronger than the good things that you eat. So it's a bit like with overdoing everything.
Yeah. And it can also be something really tiny, you know, like literally taking a different route to the shops or walking a different path with your dog. You know, it doesn't have to be a big thing. It just gives the brain something fresh, and not always a challenge. It must be something lovely. as well. Think about doing lovely green things for your brain, not just all red ones. Okay.
Wonderful.
For those of you, yes.
I was just saying thank you.
Okay. For those of you who've rated already, there are 4 factors that are like, they give extra stars. If you have humor and play in your life, very good for your brain. If you're good in doing mistakes, we do absolutely need mistakes to learn. We learn actually faster if we make mistakes. So perfectionism is not the smartest thing we can do. Relationship, if we're well connected, that is something that our brain loves. And multisensory input, that is that we don't always channel only one. If, for example, you think of your, I don't know, a dinner you had with a good friend or with your loved one, and you remember that, remember what did it smell like? What did it look like? What colors were present? What did you hear? Just focus on several senses, and especially this month when we're on screen so much. It's so much about hearing and seeing, but touch has been much too short in many ways these last month, for example, just to be aware of that.
I just want to jump in quickly about relationships. The brain functions, there's parts of the brain that doesn't even work when you're not in relationship with other people, literally. So there's parts of your brain that just go to sleep when you're not in a relationship with other people. So these are actually things that your brain need. Okay.
We're social creatures, yes.
We are social creatures. We have a bias towards being social creatures. Okay, go Tina.
If you've done that, just quickly type in, we do the Menti again. It's the same code or the same thing as before, or scan the QR code another time. And then just rate whether it's poorly or great for exercise, for nutrition, for sleep, focus. And then we will have a look what we have in the room, whether there's a common pattern or whether it's distributed. And after that, we will have a break. There we already see something. Seems like there's novelty in your lives and focus and sleep. That's good. And that's a bit like there, you already feel, if you have a lot of novelty and sometimes a lot of work, then it feels a bit like it's steering, so that exercise and nutrition fall a little short. Just have another moment, but I think everybody voted, so great. Okay. We will go back. I'll also include that in the slides later on, so that we see what we're having. And now let's say it's time for a good stretch. And as Hildy always used to say, water in, water out. Is 10 minutes fine with you? 10 minutes, so we will see again at 35. Okay, then have a good stretch.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hope you had a good stretch. And now we want to have a look at the different outlooks on life from our brain's point of view. We will have a dialogue between 2 partners. One starts, okay. So my name is the Default Mode Network, and I'm called Default Mode Network because I'm switched on the moment the owner of this brain is awake. And I like dreaming, actually. I like looking into the future, envisioning what could be. I remember what happened years ago. I have a good memory. I can imagine what someone else is thinking or feeling. I have an idea of understanding others. I can look inside of myself and have thoughts about myself. And I'm the reason why the owner of this brain knows actually that she has a past, a present, and a future, and that she can make meaning and sense of her life.
Okay, and I am a distinct part of a brain system, and I care about getting things done. I care about facts. I care about being on time. I care about what's happening now. I absolutely, I want tasks done. I have my lists. I'm a little impatient. I want it right now. Get it over with. Tick it off the list. Move on to the next thing. And yeah, so that's who I am. I'm that distinct part. So, and emotions are just a waste of time for me. And yeah, so let's just hurry along and get it done. Let's just get it done.
Okay. You can imagine those two networks. They are a bit like, not exactly, but a bit like a seesaw. What is important to know, when one is on, the other is off. It is impossible that they are switched on together. That means when you're really task focused, you're completely focused on what you're doing, ticking off your list, you're actually not capable to make meaning. You're not capable to understand what others are thinking. If you want that, you need to switch on the other network. And it's a bit like on this seesaw. If it's too heavy on one side, there's no more movement, it becomes actually quite a bit boring, and nothing is happening. It needs that balance, that movement. And that is the active switching between those two networks. And to get an awareness about that, we'd like you just to reflect for a moment. You can, if you want, you can use again your two colors and your two glasses. You can choose one on the left for the dreaming default mode network, and one on the right for it's called the task positive network, so for the task focus. And we will walk you just through maybe a typical morning of yours. And just when you feel like that's the moment when I use the more dreaming, envisioning, understanding others network, you put one color in a glass. And if you're on task focus, then you planning, short-term memory, abstract reasoning, goal orientation, then you put the other color. It's just a bit like what we did before. It's just to create that awareness. Where are you more on a typical day, and to become more aware of how to actively switch those two networks. So if you're ready, just think about a typical morning. You wake up. What are the first thoughts on your mind? Do you take time to wake up, or are you jumping right out of bed person? Maybe on a typical work day. What's the first thing you're doing? What's on your mind? When you're brushing your teeth, what are your thoughts? When you have breakfast, do you take the time to have breakfast? Are you even communicating with somebody? Then you have to go get to work. And what mindset, what's on your mind? What thoughts are running through your mind on your way to work? Either if you go by car or whatever way. And if you arrive at work and you get to your desk, if it's a desk you're working at, what are your first thoughts? What are the first things you're doing? And maybe you have a meeting for a while. People are talking. What's the spirit? Is your mind drifting, or are you completely with the to-do list on the agenda? what spirit do you have in those moments? And just when you, before your own eye, you just walk your day till, let's say, till lunchtime. Which part of the seesaw are you on in those moments? So if you're ready, I don't know whether you've used the glasses or something you can show. Somebody wants to speak. Where are you on a typical morning? Is the seesaw doing this, or is it very much in one direction or the other?
So it's just, you know, most of us tend to be on, you know, in one mode or the other mode a little bit more. So what we want you to really notice in this exercise is what is the mode that you favor. And, you know, when we do this in rooms, we you know, and it depends on what kind of people we have in the room, you know, all of them will run, if it's a firm of engineers, they'll all run to one side. And if it's a firm of marketeers, they'll all run to the other side. So it's just noticing in yourself, you know, what mode are you in? And what's really, really important from your brain's point of view is that you notice that and that you then consciously and mindfully switch. Because in order to get things really done and also live a life that's meaningful and rich and joyful, you need to spend time on both sides of that seesaw. Otherwise, you're on the ground with your bum on the task side, or you're, you know, on the or up in the air, you know, on the, you know, on the dreamy, visiony side, and not grounded at all. So it's consciously knowing what's your default, what you favor, and can you consciously switch between the two so that you get a beautiful equilibrium and a balance and the best use of your brain.
And to be aware, for example, when you feel you really overdoing it, the task positive network, if that is constantly on, at some point you'll feel exhausted. There's a tendency to overwork. And at some point that exhaustion may lead you or force you to have a look at the other side. And if you do too much default mode network, because the good part is the envisioning and to really have an idea of the future, make sense of your life, find meaning. Those are all the great parts of the default mode network. But if you overdo it, what's that? That's rumination, for example. If imagine if you have a conflict with somebody and you just cannot let it go, you're playing it and replaying it in your head. That is something, and what you can do, switch on, take some activity, focus on something, do something. Often by intuition, we know what we have to do, but if you're aware of that, you can actually get yourself out of this space. And that is why we like that seesaw metaphor, because it helps us. Is it still playful? Are we fluid, or actually are we stuck on one side? Great.
Let's look at prediction.
Yeah, actually, one of the maybe shocking news is that our brain did not develop for thinking. We may think that, but it's not the case. What is the main task for our brain is to predict what may happen around it, and what does that mean regarding our energy budget. That could be, do I have to regulate the temperature because it's cold? But that's valid for actually everything. So prediction, we often always, I think a lot of us learned that it's actually stimulus response, that the brain is reacting to its environment. What we know now that this is actually not true. The brain does a quick prediction, because otherwise we'd be, every time we try to cross a road, we'd be dead because we're too slow. the brain predicts immediately what needs, oh, we could never catch a ball, to have a more positive example, because if the brain would need to wait, where's the ball coming from, we'd never be able to do that. The brain predicts there's a ball coming and you already have your hands up, maybe even before the other people has thrown, person has thrown the ball. And that is something, the context is a bit with the novelty and the neuroplasticity. If we surround ourselves with the same experiences, then we don't give our brain enough richness to make its predictions. And that's why novelty is so important, and why changing perspective is so important. We could talk a whole day only about this
absolutely.
new research, but I just want to leave that here for a moment. That's a quote from a neuroscientist. She's done a lot on emotions, on predictions, and yeah, she says, you and I do not experience every thought, every feeling of happiness or anger or awe, every hug we give or receive, every kindness we extend, and every insult we bear as a deposit or withdrawal in our metabolic budgets. But under the hood, that's what's happening. And the idea is key to understand how your brain works, and in turn, how to stay healthy and how to live a longer and more meaningful life. There's a lot of research in this one quote, and it is something that is a bit counterintuitive, because we've heard also for so many years that it's stimulus response and all that. But we have to know that everything we do has an impact on our energy budget, and the body, the brain has to keep us safe. So it's always calculating, does that mean something too much, cost too much energy, or can I do that? And that in a split second is much too slow for that. That is what's happening all the time. And our senses are giving input to our brain so that it can correct its prediction. That is the healthy and proper way to do it. It predicts, it may be wrong, and there's an error correction if the senses reply something different. And the other great source is actually our past experience. And that's how the brain is making predictions on everything that we've lived so far to this moment. And as we cannot change our past, but what we can change is our future past experience, because that is today, that is our present. And if we change perspectives, if we invite a richness in everyday life, then our brain has a better source for prediction. And that's the point, we wanted to make here. And to play a little bit with that, we would like to do a little exercise with you. And that is, we asked you to bring a Post-it or a piece of paper, and that's the moment to take a pen and a piece of paper, and to think of a leadership challenge or any issue regarding your leadership journey that maybe you're trying to tackle for a while now, and just write that topic on a piece of paper.
You're not going to share it, so this is for you.
Yeah, this is a silent, it's a reflective and moving exercise. The little feet are on this slide because we literally want you to walk around it. If you've put the topic down on the piece of paper, please put it on the floor. You can switch off your camera if you prefer that. That's all good. You don't need to see us. You just need to hear. And then that you have enough space to walk around it in a circle. We do 5 steps and then we walk back. And it's just for you, and just see what comes up for you.
Yeah, it's so really important that you're authentic about this. We're not going to ask you what it is. There's no sharing. It's just put something down that's real about your leadership at pace. Whether you are currently a leader or whether you're an aspiring leader, it's entirely beside the point. Just put a real issue down for yourself. Just a few words. One would even be good.
Yeah. Just you have to know what you mean with it. That's all it takes. And when you found one, please put it on the floor. And please get up. Maybe you need to create a little space that you can comfortably walk around it. And during the exercise, you may look at the piece of paper in the middle. And I would just ask you a couple of questions. So we start in position 1. Imagine that's like the top of the hour. If you look at that issue that you put in the middle, what outcomes am I currently getting? Just take a moment and see what comes up. What outcomes am I currently getting regarding that issue that I've put in the middle? If you're ready, you just move like 1/5, a bit like 10 past the hour. Look again at that issue in the middle. What actions or inactions am I contributing? What actions or inactions am I contributing to this topic that I put in the middle? And when you're ready, do another step. What need or desire am I not acknowledging? What need or desire am I not acknowledging around this topic of mine? And when you're ready, you do another step. What story am I telling myself instead? What story am I telling myself around the topic of mine? And if you're ready, you do one more step. That would be like 10 to the full hour if you think in a circle. Who could I become if I let it go? Who could I become if I let that story that I'm telling myself go? And now we change directions and you walk back the same way that you've been coming. Just do one step. What needs to be accepted? What could be my new story about this? What needs to be accepted? What could be my new story about this? If you're ready, you do another step. What truth, what need or important value of mine would I live more fully with this new story of mine? What truth, need or important value of mine would I live more fully with this new story? If you're ready, walk back another step. What is one new or different, bold or tiny action I can take as a first step on this new path? What is one new or different, bold or tiny action I can take as a first step on this new path? And when you're ready, Take another step and you're back in the position where you started. What outcomes can I possibly get with this new story? What outcomes are possible with this new story? Just listen into yourself for a moment and then come back. Just wait a moment till everybody is back. You don't have to share your issue, but maybe somebody wants to share a bit about the experience. Any insights, anything that happened for you?
Alrighty, guys. So what we'd like you to do after that contemplative thought of what's going on is we would love you to share one learning, one word, and there's 30 of you, so please keep it really, really short. We will absolutely want to make sure that every single person says something, even if it's only, how do you feel right now, in one word. That's absolutely fine. So we unfortunately don't have the time to have a long, long speech from anybody, much as we'd love to sit and chat with you all evening long. But you guys have all got things to be getting on with. So a quick little input. And Vivian can monitor for us who's been speaking and who hasn't been speaking, and she's going to call you out if you haven't, because we definitely want to hear everybody's voice.
All voices in the room. You could, for example, go back to the headline that you had in the beginning. Maybe your headline changed and you have another headline now. Or one thing you want to take away from today, because the important thing is from this experience that you take something back into your life. So I switch off the nice mic here so that we see your lovely faces.
Okay, let's put it on gallery view, then we can see everybody. Yes. Or speaker view is good. Yeah, speaker view is good. Okay, who's going to go first? Little quick input. Go.
So Dom here. At the beginning, I put my word was take action. And so when we were going through the exercise, it was stuck. I felt stuck in where I was at and I wasn't moving forward. So that kind of relays back to my header of wanting to take action to move forward.
Thank you.
Introspective.
Need balance.
Mm-hmm.
Hopeful.
Go ahead. I'll go. Comfortably uncomfortable. More comforted, more comfortable with being uncomfortable.
That's lovely.
2 hard words in one sentence there.
Not alone.
Certainly not.
Mm-hmm.
Inspired.
Enlightened.
Mine is deeper snow tracks.
Prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pick balance.
Angela?
Mine is
I found that I already know the questions to ask myself. I already know it's there. Just slow down and ask those questions about yourself. Look within.
Wonderful, thank you.
Take time to think.
Cynthia.
Hey, so mine is become more rounded or well-rounded, because if all four wheels, if my being look like this, I'm not going anywhere. So that's mine.
Great, thank you.
Mine is learning to release.
Mhm.
New perspective.
To start.
Wonderful, yes.
Sarah, do you want to go?
Prioritize.
Mhm.
Change my narrative.
I'm inspired. I'm inspired to try something new this weekend that I have not done.
Great.
Find more time for default mode.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Balance.
Mine is communication and not bringing my own story and narrative into the conversation with others.
Taking a smart risk.
This is beautiful. We're hearing some excellent stuff. Sounds a lot like retraining your brain. Sounds like you guys are ready for it. Who hasn't spoken yet?
Be more open to more possibilities.
Mhm. Thank you.
Self-care.
Mhm.
Self-care, brain care. Absolutely. Okay, who haven't we heard from? I don't feel like we've heard quite from everybody yet.
Staying positive.
Risking a new step.
Thank you.
I just keep thinking it's more I got to put on my to-do list.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a lot of this, as some of you have said it, it's a lot of this is to do with integration. It's all there already. It's all happening already. So it's just doing it more consciously so that you get more out of, you know, the natural abilities and the way that your brain already functions. So it's not doing more, it's just paying attention to what's already happening so that you can, you know, do it easier with more balance.
And if you feel the to-do list is getting too long, have a lovely walk in nature with your default mode network.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we have a little closing exercise for you that we'd like to do.
Okay, so after all that contemplation and sort of knowing, you know, some of you have said something like, you know, you already know, inside you already know what the next step is, you already know what the thing is that you need to do. And it really isn't about doing more. It's about maybe considering changing your perspectives. It's maybe considering trying something you haven't done before. It's maybe considering looking at what you do out of default. So what I'd love you guys to do now is just we're going to do a little quiet little meditation You can sit or you can stand. I think standing might be better. It's going to be very short, so you can go off camera. And I just love you to go and stand somewhere comfortably. Stand with both of your feet about hip width apart, or maybe even a tiny little wider than hip width apart. Maybe the outsides of your feet can be parallel, and just stand tall and comfortably, relaxing your arms by your sides. And if you feel comfortable enough to do that, just close your eyes. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is put your hands on your head. Physically put your hands gently on your head. What are your thoughts right now? Alrighty, put your hands on your heart. What does your heart say about this? Now put your hands on your belly. What does your belly know about this? Revisit every one of those places, your head, your heart, and your belly, again, in your own mind. Okay, and then place your hands on your hips. What are you ready to do now? Okay, integrating that with your head, with your heart, with your gut. What are you ready to do now? Okay, very good. You can open your eyes and very gently come back. I can see from some of the faces that that you switched into the default mode network. And that you also switched into that deep knowing, already knowing. We do already know if we allow ourselves to stop for a moment and allow the knowing to surface to our conscious brains. Okay.
Yeah, this is just a funny reminder how easily we can actually change perspective and how we can support ourselves when we're stuck, when we're too much on one side of the balance, when we are having a bumpy wheel or a bumpy ride. We can always change perspective. And from there, we get a new path in the snow that we can walk.
One of the things we want you guys to just think about is, or feel, feel the immense power of knowing that all you have to do is change your perspective. Just look at something a different way, rather than looking at it the way that you've always looked at it, where it feels difficult or heavy or insurmountable. Just change your perspective. It's literally, as Tina said a little while ago, if you feel stuck in the too much doing, just invite yourself to go to the visioning side of the brain. And if you feel stuck in the too much ruminating, the too much worrying, the too much repeating it all in your mind, then just go and take a little action. So the things that we've shared with you today, it's just, ways to make you aware of how you can retrain your brain to be more flexible, to be more just more joyful. Play with it. It's yours. You've got it. It's there. And with more awareness, as the very wise Dan Siegel says, with awareness comes a possibility of change. It's an invitation. And we're not asking you to do anything major. Just a tiny little shift in perspective changes absolutely everything. So use your brain as your tool. You're a brain owner. And know that your brain can change in magnificent and wonderful ways by you just changing your perspective, noticing when you're being negative, or when you're listening to one of the people that work with you, just noticing, whether they're looking on the upside or the downside of something, and allow yourselves to move on from there. And very important, self-care. Take care of yourselves. It's all about balance. Many of you said balance. It's about balance and harmony. Science separated our heads from our bodies in the 1700s. And even when I was a young psychology student, they separated your mind from your body. It's not separate. Look, it's all one piece. Okay. There is nothing that happens in your brain that doesn't also happen in your body. And there is nothing that happens in your body that doesn't also happen in your brain. It is a beautiful integrated system. Take care of yourselves, take care of your health, take care of your well-being, take care of your neuroplasticity, your sleep, your nutrition, your exercise, your focus, your novelty, and you will be delighted with your brain and with your ability to do with it what you want to do, both as a leader at pace and also in your life. That's it. Tina, what have you got to say? I mean, something that's great, something I didn't say, but of course, remember, you always have access to your breath. 3 deep breaths. Our great grannies always said, my grandmother used to say, take 10 deep breaths, that'll change everything. And she was absolutely right. So even in a stressful situation with your son or with somebody that you work with, you can very quietly just take 3 deep breaths. Nobody will know, but it'll change your perspective. So very, very important. Yeah. And I mean, a tiny shift, if you've got a child, you know that you have to change perspectives all the time to outmaneuver them, don't you?
Mm.
The same in life. Anybody else wants to share? That is so true. We get so stuck and so trapped by our own stories and by our own beliefs let it go. As Tina said earlier, just let it go, let it go. Notice what's going on, smile, at yourself inwardly and go, I'm at that again, and just let it go. Don't judge, don't be annoyed with yourself, just go, oh, okay, I'm doing that again. That is an old neural pathway. That is a highway to a place I don't want to go. I'm going to get off this highway and I'm going to go on a little tiny road and I'm going to get to where I want to go. That's what it's about. All righty, ladies.
Hey.
It is. Sorry, Ezra, did you want to talk to us?
No, I'm good. It was good. I was just going to say thank you it's a beautiful spot that we have to hold this space and to be able to show up even in our messy selves, in our frustrated selves, in our finding our authentic self. I just feel it's really beautiful, a place to hold the space to be what we are. Just that.
And that's what a leader is. You have to look inside and come from that place. And there isn't a human being that isn't messy inside. Okay, even the boys, even more so. So yes, embrace all you are, take great care of yourselves, and enjoy your brains. It's a beautiful instrument to enhance your life and to play with.
And it's been an honor and a joy to work with you today. And I wish you courage and let your voices be heard. The world needs you.